Coming up next, why being unvaccinated could cost you a lot more when it comes to health care.
A CDC advisory committee votes on recommendations for the Pfizer booster shot. I'm Natalie Brand with who the panel believes should get a third dose.
Plus, the national organization empowering girls here in San Diego County to be the leaders of tomorrow.
And the local farm that's trying to save the planet and bring organic food to those who might not otherwise be able to afford it. News 8 at 6 starts now. If you're currently unvaccinated for COVID-19, get ready to start paying more for hospital care and possibly health insurance. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Carlo Cicchetto.
And I'm Marcella Lee. Early on in the pandemic, many insurance companies were waiving the costs of hospital care for COVID patients. As News 8's David Gottfredson reports, most of those waivers have now expired.
Back when the pandemic first began, a lot of health insurers voluntarily waived costs for patients.
Back in November 2020, 88% of health insurance plans were waiving all costs associated with COVID-19 hospital stays. But by October 2021, 82% of health insurance plans will no longer dismiss those expenses.
What that means for patients is that if you have a COVID-related hospital stay, you're going to be on the hook for your deductible or your co-insurance, which could be thousands of dollars.
Cynthia Cox is vice president of KFF, a nonpartisan health policy nonprofit. She says one reason health insurance companies originally waived hospital costs is they wanted to avoid a federal mandate by Congress.
If there had been a federal mandate, they wouldn't have been able to stop waiving those costs when they wanted to.
Now that those COVID cost waivers are expiring, unvaccinated patients are the ones who'll mostly be paying out of pocket. Nationwide, between June and August 2021, 98.6% of people hospitalized with COVID-19 were unvaccinated, resulting in $5.7 billion in preventable hospital costs in those 3 months alone, according to a KFF study. And those expenses may soon be passed along to employees in the form of increased health care premiums. Delta Airlines, for example, recently announced unvaccinated workers will have to pay an extra $200 per month for health insurance.
Some companies are coming out with a mandate that says if you don't get vaccinated, you get fired, you lose your job. The other companies like Delta have had a somewhat softer approach where they say, if you don't get vaccinated, you can still keep your job, but you have to submit to regular testing, and you also have to pay a higher premium each month for your health insurance.
If you have health insurance, a COVID stay in the hospital is going to cost you thousands of dollars out of pocket. On the other hand, if you get vaccinated, you could avoid the hospital altogether. Marcella?
And David, what if you don't have health insurance and you have to pay for those costs out of pocket?
According to that KFF study, the average cost of a COVID hospital stay is $20,000 and much, much higher if you're admitted to the ICU. And again, the cost of a vaccination is free.
Definitely something to consider for those who have yet to get the shot. Thanks so much, David.
A federal arrest warrant has been issued for Brian Laundrie, the fiancé of Gabby Petito. The 23-year-old has been indicted for unauthorized use of a debit card after Gabby went missing. Her body was found last weekend in Grand Teton National Park after she disappeared on a cross-country trip with Laundrie. Authorities are now searching for him. He hasn't been seen in more than a week. Caught on camera, 3 women on school surveillance video taking down state mask guidance signs and then putting up their own anti-mask posters.
The San Diego Union High School District said this happened at 2 of their campuses last week. News 8's Heather Hope has reaction from parents and an update on the police investigation.
Here at San Diego High School, a group of 3 women was shown on the school surveillance replacing posters that were highlighting the importance of masking from the state guidelines with their own anti-mask rhetoric, and then going to another school and ripping down posters there.
I'm a little surprised just because I mean, this is sort of the stated school policy.
Some parents at San Diego High School Academy say they are stunned to learn a group of adult women was caught on camera on campus on 2 local high schools removing or obscuring state-mandated mask signs.
I agree people, have different opinions, and that's fine. They can express them, but really this is what the school is doing.
Last week, the La Costa Canyon High School camera spotted the women ripping down the school posters and then next going to San Diego Academy where they put their signs over school posters. District spokesman Mikkel Jacobs said the women's signs said statements like requiring masks was equal to child abuse. School staff called the police. The Carlsbad Police Department says it is investigating.
I do not know these women, and their actions are not affiliated with Let Them Breathe in any way, and they are opposed, their actions are opposed to the intent and the mission of Let Them Breathe.
Let Them Breathe founder Sharon McKeeman says her organization often gets associated with all anti-mask bad actors. The group is currently suing the California Department of Public Health to end the mask mandate in schools.
There are a lot of frustrations right now from every side. And so that is why Let Them Breathe has been really focused on putting forward resources that can be helpful.
All students and staff are required to wear masks indoors at school per California guidelines.
My kids at least, and most of their friends are just, like you said, happy to be in school. They don't have any problem wearing a mask. I've never heard them once complain about why do we have to wear masks, that type of thing. So it doesn't seem to affect them. Like you said, their main thing is, hey, I'm back in school hanging out with my friends.
The district spokesman said he heard preliminary information that the people responsible for taking down the posters had been caught, but did not have names or any additional information of their current status. Again, the Carlsbad Police Department says they are investigating the incident, but no arrests have been made. Heather Hope, News 8.
Thanks, Heather. Today, San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria signed a law banning untraceable ghost guns in the city. The city council passed the ordinance last week that makes buying, selling, or owning gun parts without a serial number illegal. It was first introduced after a shooting in the Gaslamp back in April. One man was killed and several others hit when someone with a ghost gun opened fire. The number of weapons confiscated is also on the rise. Police say this year they're averaging 36 a month.
The issue of gun violence in our community, in our city, is significant. And a lot of the growth that we've seen in this violence is being driven by ghost guns. And we as a community cannot allow that to happen.
The new ordinance will take effect on October 14th.
A CDC panel is weighing in after the FDA gave emergency use approval of Pfizer's COVID vaccine for some vulnerable groups of the population.
The CDC advisory panel met today. Natalie Brand is at the White House with more on today's vote.
No complex gas.
A CDC advisory panel voted to recommend Pfizer booster shots for tens of millions of Americans, including those 65 years and older, nursing home residents, and 50 to 64-year-olds with underlying medical conditions. After much debate, a narrow majority also recommended booster shots for those 18 to 49 years old with underlying conditions, but the panel rejected recommending a third shot for those at risk because of their occupations. An emergency use authorization granted late Wednesday by the FDA for Pfizer booster shots included those potentially exposed to the virus because of their work.
You're tasked with difficult decisions, weighing the risks and benefits, extrapolating from sometimes the wealth and sometimes the paucity of data available.
The Biden administration says it's ready to put its booster plan in action following full approval, while also working to encourage unvaccinated Americans to get their initial shots.
We remain committed to continuing our robust efforts to vaccinate as many people as possible.
In Iowa City, a surge of COVID cases and staffing shortages have led to problems.
The overwhelming majority of these patients are not vaccinated, and it's just really heartbreaking to know that a majority of this was preventable.
The FDA's booster shot authorization only applies to people who received both doses of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine at least 6 months ago. The agency has not yet authorized booster shots for Moderna or Johnson & Johnson. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
All right, Natalie, thanks. About 26 million Americans received both Pfizer shots at least 6 months ago. Bikeways will be created near Balboa Park on Pershing Drive in an effort to keep cyclists and scooter riders safer from traffic. This comes after 2 people were killed in the area. On Saturday, 34-year-old Jonathan Sepulveda was hit and killed while riding a scooter. And back in July, a man who police say was driving under the influence of drugs hit and killed 57-year-old Laura Shin, an architect and facilities planning director at San Diego State, while she was riding a bicycle. Today, San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria directed city staff to begin work on bikeways in both directions.